It's here. The baby boomer time bomb is finally upon us. That's right. They're saying that time bomb of the baby boomers who finally in 2029, the final of them will be 65 years of age and the whole generation will be seniors. And they are now claiming they are going to be an economic burden. The same people that blame them for causing them not being able to have wealth or buy houses, they're now saying they're going to be a burden. So let's check this out here from the Business Insider, right? The time bomb has been ticking in the U.S. It's baby boomers who, as they age, are approaching their peak burden years in regard to their drag on the economy and the resources of younger generations. Well, I'll tell you, you younger generations, the same goes for us. They're not our resources yet because we're not that age to draw on them. When we're that age, yes, if they're still there when we come in, they'll be the bigger draw on those resources. So you got to have a little bit of respect and a little bit of perspective on it, I think. Now, the boomers, they've already gotten tons of flack from younger people over the economy because they seem to have left the Gen Zers and millennials and, yeah, some of their Gen X to inherit. By the end of this year, all boomers defined by the US Census Bureau being born 46 to 64 will be 60 or older. Now, that means that the youngest boomers are rapidly nearing their retirement, and the bigger retirement population means more of a drag on the U.S. economy, a burden that Barclays senior economist Jonathan Millar expects to stretch on for at least the next 20 years. Now, peak burden, Miller told Business Insider, is when essentially all living baby boomers have hit retirement, and we're getting there, and that date could fall sometime around 2029 when the youngest boomers will be 65. Now, yeah, that's a population time bomb, as they're calling it. You know, it isn't the boomers' fault. They were born, of course, but they didn't choose to be this mammoth-sized generation that left the U.S. with a big and probably expensive retirement age population. However, it should not cost the younger generations that much if the boomers have as much wealth socked away as everybody believes they do. I mean, because it isn't the case that baby boomers will derail economic growth nearly as much as, say, a full-blown recession, you know, but they are still a time bomb, as described in the paper by Dean Barker in a paper he wrote in 1998. Now, it does create strains, yes. When you have a huge retirement population, it does create strains. But the idea was just some horrible catastrophe that loomed on the horizon. You know, it's really just this craziness. Still, the consequences of the aging population are real, and it's expected to weigh on the U.S. over the coming decades. Older people are just one of the many factors weighing on Japan's economy, for instance, with senior citizens making up more than 25% of the overall population. Well, boomers are about 30% of the population. So take that, right? Now, boomers have already weighed on the U.S. economy, and the cohort risks being a bigger drag in the coming years. That is possible, but I don't think so. If they really have the wealth put away that everybody believes that the boomers have, and they're put away and they're going to live, they're not going to be a big burden because they're not going to be drawing. They have their own money to live. And the biggest thing will be, yeah, they're going to take up a lot of places in private care facilities or things like that. Or they're going to have to, where the economy will be is the population will explode in the retirement thing. There might be a whole lot of construction and business aspects in creating a whole bunch of new retirement communities, assisted living communities for retired folk that still want to stay on their own, but need a little bit of help. I mean, this could be actually more of a sector specific economic boom. Now, the housing market saw its worst sales since 1995, in 2023. Now, according to the National Association of Realtors, existing homeowners have had little incentive to downsize their homes, many of which are fully paid off or financed at ultra low rates. Now, really, if your home is completely paid off, why would you risk selling it, moving into something else, getting in a neighborhood you don't want? Okay, think you're a boomer and your house is paid off, and they go, well, you can sell your big house and move into a new development. But a lot of these new developments they're all run by HOAs and crap. And now you have all these extra payments and dues that sap your income. Why would you do that when you can stay in your home? And then younger people are like, well, that's not fair. They should move out. They got the big home. Why don't they sell it for someone else? Well, no. Why would they give up their home if it's paid for and it's a secure place to live and it doesn't create them financial burden? If they turn around and give that up and go somewhere else and live where they got more expense, that's more financial burden on them, which in the end is going to create more financial burden on you. Now, they're complaining because boomers appear to be hogging the larger homes that millennials would otherwise be flocking to as they start families. In 2022, empty nester baby boomers own 28% of large homes in the U.S. Well, this seems to be not only that, but people aren't building. New home construction doesn't keep up. People have priced themselves out with these weird ass bidding wars that they get for houses and property, or everybody wants to live in the same place, and that's where expenses go. You go to the big centers, you go to the big cities, of course, they cost so much. But if you're willing to go move, especially everybody that wants to work from home now, move somewhere where things are way less expensive. And that same money will travel 3 times the distance in your life, and you'll do better, and you can own a nice home, you can take vacations, and you can have a much more relaxing life. But everybody wants to live because they think it's a happening thing. You got to live in the big city because then you don't have to shop, and you can go to a bodega and you can always order your food, and you always eat in restaurants because that is the damn trendy thing to do. You're hurting yourselves, nobody else. Now, the U.S. has more open jobs than available workers. Now, I don't buy that. They have more open jobs than workers who are willing to do them. There is a difference. I love the way they word these things, and they always do it too with unemployment, because you're not counted as unemployed if you're not actually looking for a job, even though you're not unemployed. They really alter the numbers. Okay. Boomer retirees are also still demanding goods and services in the economy, and if they aren't contributing anything in labor, that demand is also inherently inflationary. That I don't buy. That is something economists say, that if they're not actually producing the products, well, no, because they retire and people take their place. Problem is, people don't want to take manufacturing positions. Everybody wants that sit-at-home job. Everybody wants to sit in front of the computer job. Everybody wants to, do this and make money. Get with it. You're not gonna. You're gonna have to do, if you want to do something like this, you still got to be like me, and you still got to wait around till you got your other work and you go out and make your money so you can sit around and do this. Because this ain't gonna make no living. Not in this household. I can guarantee that. Now, retirees who are less tolerant of stock market volatility also pose a downside risk to stocks. Boomers are more likely to sell if the U.S. economy tips into a recession. Oh my God, they're going to hurt the stock market because they don't want to lose money. Well, guess what? You get in there and then you sell them out and you have your money and you live. Yeah. I mean, the stock market only works if people keep buying. If nobody's buying stock, but people have to sell in order to buy, it's a load of BS. I don't like it. It's no different than gambling, really. It's been proven time and time again that you can make just as much money and be just as good in your picks if you randomly throw darts at a board with all the listed stocks on it and buy them each time. It's a complete hose job. And that is obvious by how many companies in the end, the giant companies that end up coming down, or they call something a loss and it's not a loss. It really bugs me when a company predicts they're going to make $100 million in their first quarter, but they only made $90 million. So they actually sell it as a $10 million loss when it's not a loss. They didn't meet their projection. They didn't take a loss. They still made a profit. If you've made a profit, it's not a loss, but they like to project it that way. And I imagine somewhere in there in the tax code, it allows them to even write that off. And guess who pays for that? Middle-class workers that have actual jobs and are the actual backbone of the economy in the country. Now, finally, boomers are set to collect a large amount in Social Security payments. Yes, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund is expected to be depleted in 2033, a year earlier than previously expected. And if that is the case, then where's it been going for the contributions and everything? And here's one that gets me. Okay, politicians are always saying that, Social Security won't always be there, that you're not, you can't just sit there and grant these entitlements to everybody all the time. It's not an entitlement because you pay into it. If you're paying taxes, which fund this thing, it's not just some weird entitlement. It's not as if somebody never ever worked in their entire life and collect. People that never ever work but collect benefits their entire life, they're getting an entitlement because they think they're entitled to it, even though they've never ever contributed to the source that creates these things. Now, the economic drag of boomers should fade as the generation gets smaller. That's a nice way of saying that things will get better as they start dying off. And that's where we are headed for, sidebar this a bit, we are definitely headed for a population collapse, because people talk about how the world is overpopulated. And the only reason the population is as high as it is right now is not because their birth rate is high. It's because people are living longer. And when you take the boomers are dying out and the next generations are even smaller and smaller and smaller, we are going to have a huge population drop. Like, I bet you in 50 years, we're going to be back down to 5 billion on the planet. I would not doubt it. You'll see a massive population collapse. And then they're going to freak out and say that you need to start having babies, but there's going to be all these people that aren't good anymore because they got caught into all these weird cult things that are out there. You know what I'm talking about, and ended up altering themselves so they are unable to keep the species propagated. Anyway, that's it. That's gone. That's done. That's me. This is Drex saying until later. Thanks for stopping by, and peace out, everybody.